You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
I was trying to clear out my web browser tabs the other day and
Always a dangerous game.
oh, absolutely a losing battle. But I had this sudden, slightly humorous realization while I was doing it.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, the computer I'm using right now, which honestly felt like an absolute supercomputer just a few years ago.
Right?
It genuinely feels like a stone tablet compared to the technology we are about to talk about.
It is wild how fast it moves.
It really is. You buy top-of-the-line hardware, and a blink later, it belongs in a museum.
The pace of change has definitely accelerated past Moore's Law at this point, I reckon.
Spot on.
We have moved from a brisk walk to a full sprint, and now it feels like we are just holding on to a rocket.
Which is exactly why we are here. I am the host of Vocal Technologist, and my mission with you is to take this massive stack of texts and materials we have gathered.
There's heaps of it to get through.
Mountains of it, and we want to extract the absolute core insights about where artificial intelligence is actually heading.
Completely filtering out the distractions.
Exactly. We are going to unpack the details without getting bogged down in jargon because we have a lot of ground to cover.
We certainly do. The overarching theme across all these documents paints a vivid picture of an industry at a critical crossroads.
Massive stakes.
Absolutely massive. We are looking at huge military contracts, reshaping corporate structures, and trillion-dollar valuations.
Not to mention the autonomous coding agents building their own sandboxes.
Right. The technical and geopolitical stakes have literally never been higher.
So let us get straight into those geopolitical stakes, because there is a massive financial clash happening right at the top of the artificial intelligence arena.
Between Anthropic and OpenAI.
Spot on. They are taking starkly different paths when it comes to military contracts.
It is a massive philosophical divide.
It really is. But before we unpack those details, we need to be crystal clear with you, the listener.
That's a very important point.
We are not taking sides here. We are not endorsing any political or military viewpoints whatsoever.
Spot on. We are just here to impartially report the facts exactly as they are laid out in the texts.
That neutrality is vital, especially given how polarizing these differing philosophies are.
Anthropic has placed itself in a rather precarious situation in that regard.
Because of their chief executive officer?
Right, Dario Amodei. He drew some very firm red lines regarding how their models can be deployed.
They explicitly refused to allow their technology to be used for mass surveillance.
Or autonomous weapons.
Which they framed as a rigid adherence to their core ethical values.
And the reaction from the defense establishment to those red lines was swift and severe.
Extremely severe. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded by declaring Anthropic a supply chain risk.
That is a highly unprecedented move.
It essentially restricts military contractors from deploying Anthropic software in their applications.
And the ripple effects of a designation like that are just massive.
Putting a $60 billion venture capital investment at risk.
To take that a step further, the implications extend far beyond just Anthropic.
Right, it hits the hardware suppliers too.
Yeah, exactly. This could theoretically force massive hardware providers like NVIDIA, who rely heavily on substantial business with the United States military, to sever their commercial ties.
To completely sever ties with Anthropic.
Yes. It is an existential moment for American technology development and the venture capital ecosystem that funds it.
But then you consider the alternative path, because OpenAI took the complete opposite route.
And the financial rewards were immediate.
Astronomical, really. They signed a classified deal with the Department of War.
And the specific phrasing they agreed to was allowing their technology for all lawful use.
All lawful use. Off the back of those developments, OpenAI raised an astonishing $110 billion.
Bringing their valuation to a mind-bending $730 billion.
The ideological split this represents across the ecosystem is profound.
Emil Michael, the former Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, argued very strongly against the Anthropic approach.
What was his main argument in the text?
His view is that the military should be able to use selected technology for all legal purposes.
Right.
And that civilian software companies have no business dictating America's command and control environment.
Or telling generals what to do.
Exactly.
But the internal reaction at OpenAI tells a very different story, though.
Oh, the all-hands meeting?
Yes, that all lawful use agreement caused massive friction. During that meeting, Chief Executive Officer Sam Altman faced severe employee backlash.
He called the blowback painful.
And admitted the announcement looked opportunistic and sloppy.
Because the employees were demanding a deal that explicitly banned mass surveillance and fully autonomous weapons.
Mirroring the exact stance Anthropic took.
Which brings up the fundamental nature of these partnerships.
The predictable revenue streams.
Right. Government contracts offer multi-year revenue streams that are politically protected.
The ultimate financial safety net.
Because they do not churn just because a competitor releases a slightly better product.
But you have to wonder, is that a protective moat? Or is it a pair of handcuffs?
That is the big question.
Yeah, because by adapting to those slow-moving operational security requirements, a company fundamentally alters its own corporate structure.
A laboratory chasing $1 trillion valuation might secure an impenetrable revenue stream.
But adapting to defense compliance completely changes the soul of the organization.
And the agile trajectory. The trade-off is undeniable.
The laboratory that builds that operational structure first has a bureaucratic advantage.
That no competitor can cross quickly.
But as you said, it changes their internal DNA forever. They shift from being a nimble research laboratory to a traditional defense contractor.
Speaking of massive valuations and the pressure to maintain them.
Let us look at the actual technology driving these numbers.
The texts detail the launch of GPT 5.4 and GPT 5.4 Pro.
The standout feature there is a 1 million token context window.
Which fundamentally changes how enterprise data is processed.
You no longer need complex retrieval pipelines.
You can simply drop an entire massive code base.
Or multiple textbooks directly into the active memory of the model.
They also introduced an extreme reasoning mode.
I found this part fascinating.
It is essentially dynamic compute allocation during inference.
Meaning, instead of just giving an immediate answer.
Rather than generating a single immediate response, it deliberately burns significantly more compute power.
To generate multiple internal pathways.
Evaluates those pathways and selects the most robust answer.
It is designed for long, complex tasks that might run for several hours unattended.
Despite those massive technical leaps, though, OpenAI had a major stumble.
Oh, the consumer strategy.
Yes, they had to completely pull back from their in-chat commerce feature.
Because users loved researching products inside the chat interface.
They would ask for recommendations, compare specifications, read reviews.
But when it came time to actually click the purchase button within the chat,
the conversion rate completely collapsed.
Users absolutely refused to make purchases there.
It is a fascinating failure of checkout strategy and consumer psychology.
People have deeply ingrained habits about where they spend their money.
And who they trust with their payment credentials.
Plus, OpenAI lacked the systems to collect state sales taxes.
And they had to manually onboard retailers individually.
So they ultimately had to abandon the whole thing.
And let third-party application partners handle the transactions instead.
While OpenAI deals with flashy launches and commerce pivots, Anthropic has been quietly executing a very different strategy.
They are hitting a $20 billion annual revenue run rate.
Which is explosive growth, especially considering the geopolitical headwinds.
And the supply chain risk declarations we just unpacked.
So where is their advantage coming from?
Their real advantage is not just in the software models themselves, but in the physical compute architecture beneath them.
While OpenAI remains heavily dependent on NVIDIA.
Anthropic has built a highly diversified, cost-efficient compute infrastructure.
The margin advantage there is massive. The texts note they can deliver equivalent model quality at 30 to 60% lower cost per token.
That gives them a larger training budget.
And dramatically increases their iteration speed.
They are not just building smarter models.
They are building a much more resilient factory to produce those models.
And we cannot ignore Google in this race.
Their new Gemini 3.1 flashlight.
It is positioned as a high-speed, low-cost alternative for large-scale developer workloads.
But the more compelling feature they introduced is goal-scheduled actions.
That allows the artificial intelligence to autonomously adjust its tasks toward defined objectives.
Rather than just passively responding to fixed prompts.
That subtle shift toward autonomous action brings us perfectly to our next topic.
We are seeing a massive evolution in how software is actually built.
There is a huge movement toward autonomous coding agents.
And the prime example in our materials is a platform called Cursor.
Cursor's trajectory is staggering.
It is one of the fastest growing startups of all time.
Reaching a $2 billion annual sales rate.
With 60% of that revenue coming directly from corporate customers.
Pushing their valuation to $29.3 billion.
What makes Cursor so valuable is how it changes the discipline of programming.
From imperative to declarative.
You are no longer telling the computer how to build the software line by line.
You are just telling it what you want.
And the feature driving this is called cursor automations.
These are always-on agents that run on schedules.
or are triggered by specific events.
They do not just write a few lines of code and wait for a human to review them.
These agents spin up their own cloud sandboxes.
They write the code, execute it, verify their own output.
And use memory tools to learn from past runs.
If an agent makes an error, it logs that failure and avoids it in future iterations.
It represents the third era of artificial intelligence software development.
First era developers wrote the code.
Second era, the machine acted as an autocomplete assistant.
And in this third era, developers are managing fleets of autonomous agents.
You are building the factory that creates the software, rather than assembling the software by hand, piece by piece.
The economics of that shift are profound.
Drastically lowering the barrier to entry for building complex enterprise software.
But it also fundamentally changes what a software engineering job looks like.
You move from being a tradesperson to being a manager of digital workers.
Let us unpack the global side of this development race, though.
Because while Western companies are seeing this explosive growth in developer tools, there is some serious friction happening over at Alibaba.
Their open source Qwen 3.59b model is incredibly powerful.
For context, 9B means it is a 9 billion parameter model.
Which is incredibly lean for the punch it packs.
It actually outperforms much larger models like OpenAI's open source 120 billion parameter model on key industry benchmarks.
The significance of a compact model like that winning benchmarks cannot be overstated.
Because of its highly efficient architecture, it can run natively on standard laptops.
Without requiring massive cloud compute resources.
It pushes powerful reasoning capabilities directly out to the edge.
You would think Alibaba would be doubling down on that success.
But instead, the team is experiencing a massive exodus.
The lead researcher, Junyang Lin, who was pivotal in building Qwen into a global phenomenon, stepped down.
Then core members followed, including Binyuan Hui,
who ran the entire agent training process,
and Bowen Yu, who led the instruction models.
It leaves a significant void, just as their models are achieving global prominence.
And widespread adoption within the open source community.
The tension between corporate productization and pure research often leads to these kinds of fractures.
When a laboratory creates a world-beating product, the corporate parent naturally wants to monetize it.
Which can alienate the researchers who want to push the boundaries of open science.
It is a stark reminder that despite all the massive data centers and extreme reasoning models,
this industry is still entirely dependent on human talent.
Retaining the architects who build these systems is proving just as difficult as training the models themselves.
Building on that human element, we need to address a critical, overarching theme woven throughout the texts.
Yes, the timeline of safety.
It is a profound and unsettling argument.
The materials present a stark warning that artificial intelligence safety only has 12 months left.
Before the window permanently closes.
So why the 12-month countdown?
The argument is tied directly to market dynamics and capital allocation.
Right.
The upper bound of power and influence for these technology laboratories appears to be infinite.
As a result, investors are pouring absolutely everything into the technology.
Once artificial general intelligence is achieved, the incentives for these laboratories will permanently transition.
Their primary goal will shift almost entirely to appeasing the institutional shareholders.
Like pension funds and massive asset managers who own the capital.
That makes perfect sense from an economic perspective.
Okay.
Once you go public or once you are beholden to massive institutional investors.
Fiduciary duty overrides safety considerations.
The market forces demand continuous growth and profit generation.
Exactly the point the texts are making. The argument is that safety measures must be embedded into the technical and social infrastructure right now.
Before it is too late.
If we wait until public offerings happen and those competitive dynamics lock in, embedding fundamental safety protocols will become permanently impossible.
The financial pressure to deploy models faster than competitors will simply be too strong to resist.
Adding a highly complex technical layer to this ticking clock is something the texts call the verification crisis.
The verification bottleneck. We are talking about a massive issue in how we train and evaluate these systems.
The core issue is that 90% of expert work relies heavily on subjective judgment.
In fields like healthcare, corporate law, finance, and complex engineering.
Consider a nuanced legal strategy during a corporate merger.
Or a complex medical diagnosis where symptoms overlap across multiple rare conditions.
These situations are non-deterministic. They are not black and white.
and they cannot be easily verified by the rigid deterministic training methods we currently use to evaluate these models.
But when you try to force that kind of nuanced human judgment into a verifiable box,
You actually ruin the expertise.
you run into Goodhart's law, where making the measure the target destroys the value of the measure.
That is the precise danger here. Forcing verifiability by over-specifying tasks and creating rigid rubrics.
Turns real expert reasoning into shallow instruction following.
You corrupt the training signal entirely,
You teach the model to follow a rigid checklist to pass the evaluation.
rather than applying deep expertise and contextual understanding to solve the actual problem.
So the true winners in this arena are not going to be the ones with the biggest data centers.
Or the most raw compute power. Raw power is just the baseline requirement to play the game now.
The true winners will be the organizations that figure out how to evaluate judgment-heavy, non-deterministic work without distorting it.
The laboratories that can teach a machine to navigate the gray areas of human expertise.
Without reducing everything to a simple true or false test.
They will hold the ultimate advantage.
That is the real frontier of artificial intelligence development.
And it is a hurdle that extreme reasoning alone cannot solve.
Absolutely.
To bring all of these threads together for you, we are witnessing massive foundational shifts that touch every corner of our world,
Military contracts are redefining corporate values and fracturing the industry.
creating profound supply chain risks and massive financial windfalls.
We are watching autonomous coding agents spin up their own environments, verify their own work,
And fundamentally change the entire discipline of software engineering,
and hanging over all of this is a ticking clock on safety.
compounded by the monumental challenge of verifying complex human judgment within a machine.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Go for it.
We have discussed autonomous agents operating independently, managing their own sandboxes.
Right.
And we have explored companies aligning with very different military and corporate mandates, like Anthropic's firm red lines versus OpenAI's all lawful use framework.
Two completely different worlds.
So what happens when these highly advanced, always-on autonomous agents built by different companies with conflicting ethical guidelines and massive reasoning capabilities have to start negotiating with each other in the wild?
That is a brilliant question.
Will they find a way to align on our human values? Or will their extreme reasoning capabilities lead them to create a completely new machine-to-machine code of ethics that we do not even understand?
Now that is something to think about the next time you are watching a progress bar load and wondering what the computer is actually doing behind the scenes.
It really is.
Thank you for exploring these materials with us. If you enjoyed unpacking these ideas and want to stay ahead of the curve, be sure to subscribe to Vocal Technologists wherever you listen. We will be back to unpack more fascinating insights with you. Catch you next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.